Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering your life now belongs to someone else, not metaphorically, legally, physically, completely. Someone can sell you, beat you, or even kill you, and society would consider it normal. Welcome to the world of Viking slavery. It's early morning in a small European village around the 9th century. The kind of morning where nothing interesting ever happens. Fishermen push their boats into the water. Farmers walk toward their fields. Children chase each other through muddy streets. The smell of fresh bread drifts through the air. Life is simple, predictable, safe. And that's exactly why nobody notices the ships at first. At the far edge of the sea, small dark shapes begin to move. At first, they look harmless. Birds, maybe. Or distant fishing boats. They're not fishing boats. They're Viking longships. Long, narrow warships designed for one thing: raiding. Within minutes, the ships crash onto the shore. Dozens of armed warriors jump into the shallow water. Axes, spears, round shields. They move with terrifying confidence. Because this isn't their first raid. It might be their 100th. For them, this village is just another stop on a long journey of violence and profit. Now here's the part most movies get wrong. Vikings didn't always raid just to kill people. Killing villagers was easy, but killing them made no money. Capturing them did. Because in the Viking world, humans were one of the most valuable trade goods in existence. Slaves, or as the Vikings called them, thralls. After the short battle ends, the surviving villagers are dragged towards the beach. Men, women, children, anyone strong enough to work. The weak and elderly are often killed on the spot, not out of cruelty, but efficiency. A slave who can't work is worthless. Imagine standing on that beach. Your home is burning behind you. Your hands are tied. Your family might already be dead. And a Viking warrior is looking at you the same way a farmer inspects livestock, checking your strength, your teeth, your age, deciding your future in seconds. Because from that moment on, you are no longer a person. You are property. The captives are forced onto the Viking ships, chained to wooden benches, surrounded by strangers who were captured just like them. The oars begin to move. Slowly the coastline disappears. Your entire life fades into the distance. Your home, your land, your past, everything you ever knew, is now just smoke on the horizon. Once captured, these people entered a completely different world. In Viking society, thralls had almost no rights. They could be beaten, sold, worked to exhaustion, or traded across continents. And unlike prisoners of war in modern times, there was usually no hope of returning home. For most thralls, slavery wasn't temporary. It was permanent. Today, the Viking Age is often remembered as a time of exploration and adventure. Stories of brave warriors sailing across oceans, discovering new lands, building legendary sagas. And while those stories are true, they leave out something important. Because behind every Viking success story, there were thousands of slaves, people whose suffering made that world possible. For the people captured in those raids, slavery was only the beginning. Because once the ships reached their destination, the real nightmare started. Slave markets, forced labor, brutal punishments, and sometimes a fate even worse than death. The coastline disappears. The smoke from the burning village slowly fades into the distance. And just like that, everything the captives have ever known is gone. The longship cuts through the cold sea like a blade. Row after row of chained prisoners sit along the benches. Some are crying, some are praying, some are just staring at the water in silence, because their minds haven't fully understood what just happened. But the Vikings understand perfectly. For them, this raid was successful, not because they killed people, but because they captured them. A Viking longship is not designed for comfort. It's designed for speed, which means the prisoners sit cramped together with barely any space to move. Chains link their ankles to iron rings hammered into the wood. If the ship rocks too hard, they slam into each other. If someone gets sick, everyone smells it. And if someone panics, the Vikings deal with it quickly, very quickly, because panic spreads. And panic on a ship is dangerous. Within the first few hours of the journey, every prisoner learns something important. You are not a passenger. You are cargo that can row. A Viking walks down the row of captives holding a whip. He doesn't say much. He doesn't need to. The message is simple. Row or suffer. Soon the rhythm begins. Oars hit the water. Again, again, again. Each stroke pulls the ship farther away from their past and deeper into their future. The longship sails for days, sometimes hugging the coastline, sometimes disappearing into open sea. Storms come and go. Rain falls. Wind howls. But the rowing never stops for long. The prisoners grow weaker with every passing day. Food is minimal, usually dried fish, sometimes barley bread. Just enough to keep them alive, because dead slaves are worthless. Something strange begins to happen during long journeys like this. At first, prisoners resist mentally. They hold on to memories of home, their families, their lives before the raid. But slowly, those memories start to feel distant, almost unreal, because the human mind can only hold on to hope for so long before reality crushes it. And the reality here is brutal. No one is coming to rescue them. There are no negotiations, no prisoner exchanges, no diplomatic deals. The Viking world operates on a much simpler rule. If you are captured, you belong to someone now. By the third day, someone collapses. A middle-aged man who is forced to row despite an injured leg. He simply falls sideways, too exhausted to move. The ship keeps going. For a while, no one notices. Then a Viking walks over, looks down, kicks him. No response. The Viking shrugs. Two warriors grab the body and throw it into the sea, just like that. No ceremony, no burial, no name. Just another piece of cargo that stopped working. The captives watch the body disappear into the water. No one speaks, no one cries, because everyone understands something now. Their lives have been reduced to one simple equation: work or vanish. After days at sea, land finally appears again. But this is not home. This is something else. A large Viking settlement. Smoke rising from dozens of houses. Ships lining the harbor. Traders walking the docks. The captives are dragged off the ship, chains clanking against wood. They are pushed toward a crowded marketplace. And that's when the horrifying truth becomes clear. People are staring at them, not with sympathy, with interest, like buyers at a livestock market, because that's exactly what this place is. A slave market, one of the most profitable businesses of the Viking world. Places like Hedeby or Birka were famous across Europe for one reason. They didn't just trade silver, weapons, and furs. They traded people. The captives are lined up in the center of the market. A merchant walks forward. He grabs one prisoner's jaw, turns his head left, then right, checking his teeth, checking his muscles, checking his price. Because in the Viking world, a human being has become just another product, and the auction is about to begin. The captives stand in a line. Chains clink against the wooden platform beneath their feet. People gather around them. Not soldiers, not enemies. Buyers, traders, farmers, merchants. They walk slowly past the prisoners, studying them with the same attention someone might give to livestock. Because in the Viking world, that is exactly what these people have become. Property. The market is loud. Traders shout prices. Blacksmiths hammer iron. Animals cry in wooden pens. But the slave section has its own strange atmosphere. Quieter, more focused, more calculating. Here, the goods can speak and scream and beg, but that doesn't change their value. Because value here is determined by only three things: strength, health, and usefulness. One by one, buyers step forward. A merchant approaches the first captive. He grabs the man's jaw and forces his mouth open. Teeth are important. Bad teeth means sickness. Sickness means lost money. The merchant nods slightly, and he grips the man's arms, feeling the muscles. Strong arms mean strong labor. Another buyer steps forward and pulls back the captive's hair, checking for scars. Injuries reduce value. Old wounds mean weakness. The buyers speak calmly, almost casually, like traders discussing cattle, because in their eyes, this is no different. Prices vary depending on the slave. A strong adult male might sell for several pieces of silver. A skilled craftsman could be worth even more. Children are cheaper, but they are considered long-term investments. Train them young, and they will work for decades. Older prisoners, especially those with injuries, are often the least valuable. Sometimes they are sold cheaply. Sometimes they are not sold at all. And when that happens, their fate can become very dark. One of the most brutal parts of the market is separation. Captives rarely remain with their families. A strong man might be bought by a farmer. His wife might be purchased by a household needing a servant. His children could be sold to completely different buyers. Within minutes, families disappear in different directions, never to see each other again. There are no appeals, no mercy, just business. The people buying slaves are not always warriors. Many are ordinary members of Viking society. Farmers who need extra labor, merchants who plan to resell slaves elsewhere, wealthy households looking for servants. Some buyers even purchase slaves specifically for trade, because Viking trade routes stretched across enormous distances, from northern Europe all the way to markets near Constantinople and beyond. Human beings were one of the most profitable commodities moving through these routes. A trader climbs onto the platform. He raises his voice so the crowd can hear. The first captive is pushed forward. The bidding starts quickly. Silver coins are raised. Voices shout numbers. Within moments, the deal is done. The buyer steps forward and grabs his new property. The captive disappears into the crowd. The next prisoner is pushed forward, then the next, then the next. The process is fast, efficient, emotionless, because in this market, human lives are just another transaction. Eventually, the young boy captured in the raid is shoved toward the center. The crowd studies him. Too young for heavy labor, but healthy, strong enough to grow into a good worker. A farmer steps forward. He studies the boy carefully, then raises his hand. The trader nods. The deal is made. Just like that, the boy has a new owner, a man he has never met, in a place he has never seen, and a life he never chose. The new master grabs the boy by the arm and pulls him away from the platform. The market noise fades behind them. For the first time since the raid, the boy realizes something terrifying. This is not temporary. This is not imprisonment. This is ownership. Someone now controls every moment of his life. What he eats, where he sleeps, how hard he works, whether he lives or dies. The master leads him toward a wagon waiting near the edge of the settlement. Beyond the market, farms stretch across the landscape. Fields, animals, work, endless work. Because the boy is no longer just a captive. He is something else now. A thrall. And the real nightmare of Viking slavery is about to begin. The man doesn't say a word. He just walks. Fast. The boy stumbles behind him, wrist locked in a grip that feels less like guidance and more like ownership. The noise of the market fades. The shouting, the bargaining, the human voices, all of it disappears behind them. And what replaces it is silence. They move away from the settlement, past wooden houses, past blacksmiths, past people who don't even look twice. Because to them, this is normal. A man walking with his property. The road turns to dirt, then to mud, then to open land. Fields stretch out in every direction. Cold wind cuts across empty space. The boy looks around. There's no city, no crowd, no chance of disappearing. Just land and work. The farm is not impressive. A long wooden house, a few smaller structures, animals tied to posts, smoke rising slowly from a fire pit. It looks simple, almost peaceful, but that illusion dies quickly, because standing near the house are others, thralls. They don't greet him. They don't smile. They don't even look curious. They just glance and then look away, like they've seen this moment too many times. The master finally stops. He turns, looks at the boy for a long moment, not angry, not kind, just evaluating. Then he speaks, calm, flat. You work, you eat. You don't. That's it. No explanation, no welcome, no introduction, just the rules. Another thrall approaches, older, face worn down by years of something heavier than labor. The master gestures toward the boy. Show him. Then he walks away, just like that. The boy has been handed off, not as a person, as a task. The older thrall doesn't speak at first. He simply hands the boy a tool, rough wood, heavy, unfamiliar. Then he points toward the fields. That's the instruction. No training, no guidance, just expectation. The boy hesitates, and that hesitation lasts maybe 2 seconds, before a sharp crack splits the air. The boy drops to his knees. Pain explodes across his back. The whip. He didn't even see it coming. The older thrall doesn't react, doesn't look surprised, doesn't look sympathetic, because this is normal. The boy gets up, slowly, shaking. He picks up the tool again. No one tells him what to do. But now he understands something very clearly. Mistakes are punished, immediately and painfully. So he starts copying the others, digging, moving, working. Not because he knows how, but because he's afraid not to. Hours pass, or maybe it's minutes. Time stops behaving normally when your body is exhausted. The work doesn't pause. The sun moves across the sky. The cold never really leaves, and hunger begins to settle in, deep, constant, distracting. When food finally comes, it's not a meal. It's survival. A small portion of bread, maybe some fish, nothing more. No one talks while eating, because talking wastes energy, and energy is everything here. The boy eats quickly, not because he's starving, but because he's learning. Eat fast, or someone else might take it. Over time, the structure becomes clear. Thralls wake before sunrise, work until exhaustion, eat just enough to continue, sleep in crowded, cold spaces, and repeat every day. No breaks, no weekends, no future. Punishment isn't rare. It's part of the system, a tool. Work too slow, whip. Drop something, whip. Look defiant, whip. And sometimes worse. Because the goal isn't just control, it's conditioning. The body learns pain, the mind learns fear, and eventually, obedience becomes automatic. Something begins to change inside the boy. At first, he resists. Internally, he remembers his home, his family, his old life. But those memories start to feel distant, like something that happened to someone else. Because the brain adapts. It has to survive. And survival here means accepting one thing. This is your life now. At night, the thralls lie together in a cramped wooden space. No privacy, no comfort. Just bodies trying to recover enough to function again tomorrow. The boy looks around. Different faces. Different ages. Different pasts. But all with the same expression. Not anger. Not sadness. Something worse. Acceptance. The older thrall finally speaks. His voice is low, almost careful. Don't try to run. The boy looks at him. Why? The older man doesn't answer immediately. Then he says, because they always catch you. And when they do, they don't just punish you. He looks directly at the boy now. They make sure everyone else learns from it. Night settles over the farm. The wind moves through the fields. The boy lies awake, staring into darkness, listening to the breathing of strangers, feeling the pain in his back. And for the first time, he understands something completely. This isn't temporary. This isn't a nightmare he'll wake up from. This is his life now. And somewhere far away, his old life continues without him, as if he never existed. But what the boy doesn't know yet is that things can get even worse. Because in the Viking world, being alive as a slave didn't guarantee you would stay alive for long. The boy doesn't sleep. He closes his eyes. But sleep doesn't come, because every time his body relaxes, his back reminds him, sharp, burning, alive. Around him, the other thralls breathe heavily, exhausted, used to it. But he isn't used to it yet. And that's the problem. Before the sun rises, someone kicks the door open. Cold air floods the room. Up. No shouting. No anger. Just routine. The kind of routine that doesn't need emotion anymore. Because this isn't discipline. It's a system. The boy stands. Slow. Careful. Every movement hurts. But no one asks if he's okay. Because that question doesn't exist here. Outside, the fields wait. Same land. Same tools. Same expectations. Work. Or suffer. The boy is carrying a wooden bucket filled with water. His hands shake. His grip slips. The bucket falls. Water spills into the dirt. Silence. Not natural silence. The kind that spreads. Because everyone nearby knows what's about to happen. The master walks over. Slow. Controlled. No rush, because he knows something the boy is just learning. Fear works better when it takes its time. He stops in front of him, looks down at the empty bucket, then at the boy. No shouting, no speech, just action. The whip comes down. Once, twice, 3 times. Each strike louder than the last. Each one designed not just to hurt, but to be heard. Because punishment here isn't private. It's public. It's a message. The boy collapses. But the punishment isn't just for him. It's for everyone watching. Every thrall nearby has stopped working. Not because they want to, because they have to. They are being reminded. This is what happens. Mistakes are not corrected. They are erased. This is how control works. Not through constant violence, but through selective violence. Precise, visible, memorable. You don't need to beat everyone. You just need to beat one person, in front of everyone, and the rest will obey. Days pass, or maybe weeks. Time starts to blur. The boy works, eats, sleeps, repeats. But something inside him hasn't fully broken yet. Hope, small, fragile, but still there. And hope does something dangerous. It makes you think. It makes you imagine escape. One night, it happens. Not him. Another thrall. A young man. Fast. Quiet. Desperate. He waits until the farm is silent. Then he runs. Into the dark. Into the forest. For a moment, it almost feels possible. Morning comes. The man is gone. And for a brief second, something spreads among the thralls. Not joy, not exactly, but something close. Maybe he made it. Maybe. Then the dogs start barking. They bring him back before midday. Dragged, beaten, barely conscious. The entire farm is gathered. Thralls, workers, everyone. Because this is important. This is not just punishment. This is education. The man is tied to a wooden post. The master stands in front of him, calm as always. He speaks, not loudly, but clearly enough for everyone. This is what happens. That's it. No long speech. No anger. Because the point isn't explanation. It's demonstration. The punishment is worse this time. Slower, longer, deliberate. The man screams, and stops screaming, and starts again, until eventually he doesn't make any sound at all. And somehow, that silence is worse. No one looks away, because looking away might be seen as disrespect, or weakness, or defiance. And those things also get punished. So everyone watches, including the boy. And in that moment, something changes inside him. Not physically, mentally. The hope he had shrinks, not gone, but smaller, weaker. Because now he understands something clearly. Escape isn't impossible, but surviving it almost is. The body is left there for hours, not as a mistake, as a reminder. Work resumes around it, because work never stops. Not for pain, not for death, not for anything. That night, the boy lies in the same place, same cold, same darkness. But something is different. He doesn't think about home as much. He doesn't imagine escape. He doesn't ask questions, because now he's learning the most important rule of survival here. Don't stand out. Don't resist. Don't hope too loudly. Because in the Viking world, punishment wasn't just about pain. It was about control. And the more you understood that, the longer you stayed alive. Morning comes, same as always. Cold, quiet, unforgiving. But something is different today. Not in the air, not in the sky, in the way the master moves. Faster, focused, like something is about to happen. The boy notices it first when the master starts walking through the thralls, looking at them, not casually, carefully, like he's choosing. Again, that feeling returns, the one from the market, the one that says, your life is about to change, and not in a good way. 3 thralls are pulled aside, then 4, then 5. The boy is one of them. No explanation, no warning, just a gesture. You, come. That's all it takes. Because in this world, your life can be redirected with a single word. Here's something most people don't realize. Being sold once doesn't mean you stay in one place. Slaves in the Viking world were constantly moved, bought, sold, traded, again and again. Not because owners were cruel for no reason, but because slaves were valuable, and value moves. By midday, they're walking again. Same path, same silence. But this time, there's no confusion. The boy already understands. He's being sold, again. At the harbor, a different ship waits. Larger, heavier, built not just for raiding, but for transport, cargo, human cargo. They are loaded onto the ship, not gently, not carefully, efficiently. Chains again, wooden benches again, the sea again. But this time, it feels different, because the first time there was shock. Now there is understanding, and understanding makes it worse. The ship doesn't stay near the coast this time. It travels farther, longer, through waters the boy has never seen. Days pass, then weeks. Stops happen along the way. New ports, new traders, new languages. At one point, more slaves are added, from different lands, different faces, different stories, all with the same ending. This is when the truth becomes clear. This isn't just one farm, or one village, or one group of Vikings. This is a system, a network, stretching across continents. Vikings didn't just raid randomly. They fed a massive trade system, moving goods from north to south, east to west. And among those goods were people, thousands of them. Eventually, the ship reaches a place unlike anything the boy has seen before. Larger, busier, louder. Not a small Viking settlement, something bigger. A major trade hub connected to routes leading toward powerful cities like Constantinople. Here, cultures mix, languages overlap, and slavery is not hidden. It's part of the economy, open, accepted, normal. The boy is taken off the ship, again, lined up, again, watched, again. But this market feels different, more organized, more competitive. Prices are higher here, because the demand is higher. Strong slaves can be resold further south, to richer buyers, to harsher environments, to lives even more difficult than before. Standing there, the boy understands something terrifying. This doesn't end. There is no final destination, no last owner, no point where someone says, okay, you're done now. This can continue forever. Farm, ship, market, repeat. His life is not a straight line anymore. It's a loop, and every loop takes something from him. Strength, hope, identity. A man steps forward. Not a farmer, not a Viking. Different clothes, different accent. He studies the boy carefully, longer than the others, more interested, more precise. He doesn't just look at strength, he looks at potential. That's new. And somehow, that feels even more dangerous. The deal happens quickly. Silver changes hands. The boy is handed over. Again. But this time, something is different. The new owner doesn't pull him roughly, doesn't shout, doesn't threaten. He simply gestures. Come. Controlled, almost polite. And that makes it worse, because now the boy doesn't know what to expect. As they walk away from the market, the boy looks back one last time. Ships, chains, crowds, endless movement, endless trade, endless people being bought and sold. And for the first time, he understands the full scale of it. He was never just unlucky. He was part of something much bigger, something designed, something efficient, something unstoppable. Because in the Viking world, slavery wasn't just an act of violence. It was an industry. And industries don't care about the people inside them. The man walks slowly, not like the others, not like the farmers, not like the warriors. There's no rush in him, no visible anger, no need to prove anything. And somehow, that makes him more unsettling. They move through a larger settlement. Stone structures mixed with wood. More people. Better clothes. More order. This is not a farm. This is wealth. Not extreme wealth, but enough to create distance. Distance between master and everyone else. They stop in front of a house, larger than anything the boy has seen since his capture. Clean, structured, quiet. The door opens before they knock. A woman stands there. She looks at the boy, not shocked, not sympathetic, just aware, like she's seen this before. The boy steps in and immediately notices something strange. It's warm, not emotionally, physically. There's fire, there's structure, there's control. Everything feels organized, which is new, because chaos is easier to understand than control. The man finally speaks, not loudly, not harshly. You will work here. You listen, you learn, you survive. No threats, no mention of punishment, but somehow it feels more serious than anything said before. Inside the house, there are others, fewer than the farm, cleaner, quieter, more careful. They move differently. Less fear on the surface, more fear underneath. Because here, mistakes are not loud. They are remembered. The boy begins to understand something important. This place runs differently. On the farm, control came from pain. Immediate, visible. Here, control comes from something else. Expectation, precision, observation. You are watched. Always. Not by someone holding a whip, but by someone deciding your worth. The tasks are different. Cleaning, carrying, serving, watching, learning patterns, learning timing, learning silence. Because in a house like this, being invisible is survival. Later, one of the older thralls speaks quietly while working. Don't speak unless asked. The boy nods. Don't look directly unless told. Another nod. And don't assume kindness means safety. The boy pauses at that, looks at him. Why? The older thrall doesn't stop working, because stopping work is noticed. Because here, You don't always see the punishment coming. Days pass. No one hits him. No one shouts. No one raises a weapon. And yet, the tension is worse. Because now he doesn't know the limits. On the farm, the rules were simple. Work or suffer. Here, the rules are invisible. And invisible rules are more dangerous. Because you only learn them after you break them. It happens quietly, small, almost meaningless. The boy serves food, places a bowl slightly out of position. Too close, too careless. The man notices. Of course he notices. Because men like him always notice. He doesn't shout, doesn't strike, doesn't even look angry. He simply adjusts the bowl, moves it slightly, then looks at the boy. Not long. Just enough. And in that look is something far more powerful than a whip. Disappointment. Cold. Measured. Controlled. That night, the boy realizes something terrifying. He prefers the whip because pain is simple. Pain ends. Pain is clear. But this constant pressure to be perfect never ends. In this house, power doesn't need to prove itself. It doesn't need noise or violence. It exists quietly, constantly, like air. You don't see it, but it's always there. And if it disappears, you don't survive. Something else begins to change. The boy starts anticipating, thinking ahead, trying to avoid mistakes before they happen. Trying to understand what the master wants before he says it. And that's when it happens. The most dangerous transformation of all. He stops reacting and starts adapting. Late night. The house is silent. The boy sits alone for a moment, still, thinking. Not about escape, not about home, just about tomorrow. What to do. What not to do, how to survive. And in that moment, without realizing it, he takes his first step toward becoming exactly what this system wants him to be. Because the most effective control is not forcing someone to obey. It's teaching them to control themselves. Morning comes softer here. No doors kicked open, no shouting, just movement. Quiet footsteps, controlled routines, the kind of calm that looks peaceful until you understand what's underneath it. The boy notices it slowly, not in one moment, but over days. There are women in the house, thralls, like him, but their work is different, closer, more personal, and far more dangerous in ways that are harder to see. They don't work in the fields. They don't carry heavy tools. Instead, they serve. Food, clothing, fire. They move through the house constantly, always near the master, always within reach. And that proximity comes with a cost. One of them speaks to the boy for the first time, quietly, while preparing food. You're new. He nods. She doesn't ask where he's from, doesn't ask about his past, because those questions don't matter here. Instead, she says something else. Stay unnoticed, especially here. At first, the boy doesn't understand, because from the outside, this place looks easier than the farm. Less violence, less exhaustion, more food, more structure. But over time, he starts to see the truth. This house doesn't run on force. It runs on control. And control here is more precise, more personal. On the farm, power was distant. A master and many workers. Here, power is close, direct, focused. And when power is that close, it becomes unpredictable. Because it's not just about labor anymore. It's about attention. And attention can be dangerous. The boy begins to notice patterns. A woman called more often than others. Another avoiding eye contact at all costs. Someone disappearing for long periods. Then returning quieter than before. No one explains it. No one needs to. Because everyone understands. And no one says it out loud. On the farm, survival meant strength, endurance, obedience. Here, survival is more complicated. It's about reading people, understanding moods, predicting reactions, knowing when to speak, and more importantly, when not to. One evening, the same woman speaks again, low voice, careful. Do you think this is better? The boy hesitates, because it does feel better. Less pain, less fear on the surface, so he nods slightly. She almost smiles, not a happy smile, a knowing one. This place doesn't hurt you loudly. She looks back at her work. It just stays with you longer. The boy doesn't fully understand yet, but he feels it. This place isn't breaking bodies. It's shaping behavior, changing thoughts, rewriting instincts. And the most dangerous part is, it's working. Days turn into weeks. The boy becomes more efficient, more precise, more aware. He makes fewer mistakes, speaks less, moves better. And slowly, he starts to forget who he was before. Not completely, but enough. Enough that his old life feels distant, like a story he once heard. The women in the house survive the same way, by adapting, by learning, by becoming exactly what the system allows them to be. Some become invisible. Some become indispensable. Some become something in between. But all of them understand one thing clearly. Survival here is not about freedom. It's about positioning. And yet, even in this controlled environment, nothing is stable, because everything depends on the master, his mood, his decisions, his interests, which means safety is never guaranteed, only temporary. Late night again. The house is quiet. The boy passes through a corridor. He hears something, a voice, soft, not crying. Not exactly. Something in between. He pauses, listens, then keeps walking. Because he's learning. Some things you don't stop for. Because in this world, survival doesn't always mean escaping pain. Sometimes it means learning how to live with it. The next morning feels normal. That's the first sign something is wrong. Because nothing about this life is normal. And yet, it starts to feel that way. The boy wakes before being told, moves before being asked, works without being watched. Not because he has to, because he's learned to. And that's the difference. Before he obeyed out of fear. Now, he obeys automatically. His movements are sharper now, more precise. He places objects exactly where they belong, speaks only when necessary, avoids mistakes before they happen. He has become efficient, valuable, reliable. Everything a master wants in a thrall. First time, there is something new, less pressure, slightly more food, fewer corrections. Nothing is given, but something is eased, and that creates a dangerous illusion that things are improving, but nothing is actually better. The system hasn't changed. The rules haven't changed. The power hasn't changed. Only he has. He has adapted so well that the system no longer needs to push as hard. He starts noticing something else. New thralls arrive, confused, clumsy, slow, just like he once was. They make mistakes, small ones, obvious ones. He feels something unexpected, not sympathy, something colder, distance. One of the new thralls drops a bowl. It shatters. Silence fills the room. The boy freezes, but only for a second, because now he knows what happens next. The master looks up. So, measured. The room tightens. Everyone feels it. And in that moment, the boy does something small, almost invisible. He steps back, creates space, distance between himself and the mistake, because instinct has taken over. Protect yourself. First, always, the new thrall is punished. Quick, controlled, expected. And the boy watches, not with fear, not like before, but with understanding. This is how it works. This is how it has always worked. And that's when it happens. The line, the invisible line. He crosses it without realizing. He is no longer just surviving the system. He is functioning inside it, predicting it, accepting it. This is how systems like this survive, not just through force, but through adaptation. People don't just endure them. They become part of them, piece by piece, choice by choice, until one day, they don't even recognize the difference. That night, the boy tries to remember his home, his village, the fire, the sea, but the images are weaker now, blurry, distant, like something from another life. Because the mind does something necessary. It lets go of what it can't return to, but that comes with a price. Because every memory lost is a piece of identity gone, and eventually, there's not much left. The boy is no longer the same person who was taken from the shore. That boy reacted, questioned, hoped. This version calculates, adapts, survives. He sits alone for a moment, still, thinking, and for the first time, he doesn't think about escape. He doesn't think about the past. He thinks about one thing, how to continue. Across the room, a new thrall struggles with a task. Confused, uncertain, lost. The boy watches him, just for a moment, then turns away, because helping is risky, and risk is something he no longer takes. Because the most terrifying part of survival is not what it does to your body, it's what it does to your mind. Time passes, not in days, not in weeks, in something less clear. Because when every day is the same, time stops feeling real. The boy grows older, stronger, more controlled, more silent. He is no longer watched as closely, no longer corrected as often, because he doesn't need to be. He has become exactly what the system required: reliable, predictable, invisible. Life settles into something that almost feels stable. The house runs smoothly. The routines hold. Mistakes are rare. Punishments are quieter, less frequent. And that creates a dangerous thought. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is as bad as it gets. Then one day, everything shifts. Not gradually, instantly. The master falls ill. At first, it seems minor. Fatigue, silence, less movement. But within days, it becomes clear. Something is wrong. Very wrong. For the first time, the man who controlled everything loses control. He stays inside, stops giving instructions, stops observing, stops being present, and the house begins to feel different, uncertain, because everything here depended on him. The thralls feel it immediately, not relief, Not hope, fear. Because when power weakens, it doesn't disappear, it shifts. And shifting power is dangerous. Then the word spreads quietly. The master is dying. And with that comes something else. Something older. Something darker. A tradition. A belief. In parts of the Viking world, death was not the end. It was a journey. And powerful men did not travel alone. They were buried with what they owned. Weapons. Treasure. Animals. And sometimes, people. Accounts like those of Ahmed ibn Fadlan describe rituals where slaves were sacrificed to accompany their masters into the afterlife. Not as punishment, as purpose. That's what made it worse. The house changes again. Quiet conversations, careful looks, subtle decisions being made. Because someone will be chosen, not randomly, carefully, the most loyal, the most useful, the most trusted. The boy understands before anyone tells him, because now he understands how this world works. Value determines everything, and he has spent years becoming valuable. Reliable, predictable, close, and that makes him visible. One evening, he is called. No urgency, no force, just a simple instruction. Come. The same word that changed his life before, and now it will end it. He doesn't resist, not because he wants this, but because resistance no longer exists in him the same way. It was worn down, piece by piece, over years, until what remains is something quieter, understanding. The scene returns, the one from the beginning. Wood surrounds him, tight, close, final. Above, voices chant, ritual words, ancient, meaningful to them, meaningless to him. And in that moment, something strange happens. He remembers, not the farm, not the house, but the very beginning. The shore, the village, the morning before everything changed. Clear, sharp, like it never left. And he understands something fully. For the first time in years, he survived. Yes. He adapted. Yes. He endured. Yes. But none of it changed the ending. Because in the Viking world, a slave's life didn't belong to them. And in the end, neither did their death. History remembers the Vikings as explorers, warriors, and legends. But behind that legacy was something else. A system built on people who were never meant to be remembered. The thralls. And for them, life was not an adventure. It was survival inside someone else's story.